Hello everyone, my name is Curtis and I am a home care provider.
My name is Kevin Prasad. I'm a security officer at San Francisco International. My name is Blanc, G2. I live in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, high-wage workers in the computer fields are displacing low-wage workers in retail, janitorial, landscaping, food preparation, and serving-related jobs. What's going to happen when those workers are forced to move out of the area because they can't keep up with the cost of living? We're going to have a growing number of elderly, seniors, and disabled who are going to need those services. And we're not going to have the workers here to provide those services. Our main task is that we need to get these amendments passed to the minimum compensation ordinance.
I am a family of four. My wife and I, we both currently work. We work low-wage paying jobs, both of us. I have a 19-year-old son and I have a 15-year-old daughter. And one thing that I'm starting to realize is that my family, I've sacrificed my family to work. And that should not be. I should not have to work so hard in a given day to where I'm working 12 hours a day to where I cannot parent my kids. But it's hard for me to pay rent, to meet the basic needs of my family when my wages that I work for are so low. It makes me have to work double time. I almost feel like I have to work 24 hours in one day. I love the city. I've been recently priced out of San Francisco. I can no longer afford to live here. The rent is just ridiculous. I've relocated my family to Richmond, to where we live in a two-bedroom, and guess what? The living room is converted to a bedroom for my son, because that's all that we can afford. And I love what I do. My job, I take care of some of the most vulnerable people in San Francisco. I love what I do. And at the end of the day, somebody still has to do my job. Why can't that person be me, who loves to do this work? The only problem I have is the wages. How can I expect, how anybody can expect me to live, to survive, and take care of my family?
God bless you for the work you've done as a caretaker took care of my mom. They gave my mom 6 months to live, and this caretaker took care of my mom for 8 years. And she's survived 8 years because of this woman. That's why I'm here today, because of her.
I'm running 30 hours straight. I have not slept since 1:30 yesterday. I work 16 hours a day, and I'm trying to save up for school. My VA money just ran out. I have to suspend going to school, suspend bettering myself, just so I can try and find a place to stay. The American dream is not working 16 hours a day, barely making ends meet, and having your own son sleeping in the living room, and not even having a house. We need to fight for a living wage. Invest in us, and we will invest in San Francisco. Invest in us, and we'll invest in our kids, in our future. I have 4 kids. I want to be honest with you guys. Supposedly my kids go to school and stuff, but the thing is, my kids are helping us to pay our bills. I hate to cry. But at least they're supposed to be, we're the best to help the kids, but I can't do it. Sorry, I can't.
I'm a caregiver. Doing this for a long time, like more than 10 years. And these companies are receiving millions. It's not a trickle. It's like a speck of dust we shared twice. And yet we are the backbone of their company.
People work the hardest to get paid the least in the country. And here in San Francisco, the wealthiest city, in this whole peninsula, the wealthiest peninsula in this whole country, does one of the worst jobs in the world paying people. It's a disgrace.
My name is Theriault. I work at the airport. I push chairs. I carry bags. I think it's imperative that we work for this wage increase as soon as we can, because cost of living is getting very, very high. What I'm saying is, let's join hands to push
I work at Fairmont Elementary School, where I've been pretty much my entire teaching career. I was for about 10 years in the classroom, working as a 4th grade, sometimes 5th, 3rd, 1st, everything but kinder pretty much, teacher. And for the past 10 years or so, I've been out of the classroom in different coaching positions and as a reading specialist, and currently I'm a literacy coach. I have been the building rep at my site, so for over 20 years. And I've been on the executive board of UESF for almost as long. I met Lita through our union activism. I met her when we were both on the executive board. I believe she was a classroom teacher. Most recently, she was a literacy specialist, a reading recovery teacher, and a reading specialist. I think she's very strong. She's really persistent. She's smart, and she's super passionate. She has always been for social justice unionism, for more democratic and transparent union. And Lita is really great at listening to folks. I remember sometimes I'd be stuck like trying to get my site organized around something, and Lita would just say, well, I just ask my site like what they want. And I just remember something like so basic as that. Like Lita's really good at listening to folks and synthesizing what people want, and really taking the pulse of not just on a small issue like at a site level, but also at the union level for our 6,000 plus members.
As you probably know, I'm a teacher too. I've been at City College forever. A lot of administrators would say to me, union activists are committed to the union, but they're not the best teachers.
Right.
And the person who did a very good job of contradicting that was Joan Marie Shelley. So what's your experience with union activists? Are they better because of their union work, or are they so involved in the union work that they're not the most conscientious teachers?
I don't see how the two can be separate, really. I mean, I feel like union activism is lobbying not only for ourselves, but really for not just our own working conditions, but really we're there for us to service our students. The work that we do is there to service our community. And what's good for us is really good for the kids, too.
What qualities do you think she has that make her a good leader?
I think she's very committed to moving forward with a progressive union ideas. She has, for example, for years, even before she became the union president of UESF, she fought for the reduction of standardized testing. She's fought for living wage for paraprofessionals, paraeducators who are least valued and very severely, shamefully underpaid workers. Lita has a really great way of leading and making sure everybody's voice is heard. I've worked with Lita for a long time, and I see her as really a committed and passionate labor leader. I'm really thrilled to hear that Lita is getting this award. I think she surely is deserving of it. She's worked hard. She's always stood up for what she believes in, not just for herself, of course, but for her larger community. And she has really faced some struggles politically, and I think that she has overcome those with grace, and she continues on, and she really is dedicated to not only the teachers and paraeducators of San Francisco, but to the students and families that she services as well.
Buena Vista Horseman, bilingual 4th grade teacher, entering my 6th year in teaching.
And you're a member of UESF?
Yes, I was, I've been a member since, obviously, becoming a teacher, but I had the privilege of joining the executive board 2 years now.
How did you become an activist?
When I graduated from college, I had already been wanting to get involved politically. I had a really rough college experience. I come from a very small town on the border called Calexico. Growing in a small town, being very isolated from the rest of, I think, the general California demographics or the country's demographics, I think I was very sheltered. Went into college, had kind of a culture shock in San Luis Obispo. Was there for 6 years in architecture school. And when I came out of that, it was really frustrating, I think, to just have been in that environment. And I think I took a lot of things to heart, very frustrated with the experience I had in college. Just being the fact that I had grown up in a largely Mexican community and then being transplanted into the Central Coast, which is, even to this day, I think is very right-wing. Once I get out of college, I really wanted to get involved. And I was looking for an anti-racist organization at the time. I was looking into community organizing, and I got involved with the Answer Coalition at that time, and been involved since. You know, being political in the social movements, I think we really look towards unionism as being extremely important, a way to defend one's rights under capitalism. So when I graduated in the worst economic condition. That was a Great Recession, and so there was a moment where I was the only one employed in my graduating class, and so I went immediately into teaching, and I loved the career. But like I said, as soon as I got in, it was just a natural thing. Get involved with your union. There were some really good union activists at the time who were taking care of that work. I was helping out in whatever way I could. Got involved at my site, got elected to the UBC. From the UBC, I helped very much the contract negotiations.
How did you meet Lita?
When you walk into any, I think any union space, especially an active and politically developed union space, you meet the individuals. There's just based on a lot of characters, a lot of leadership. I think it's very dynamic, and so I think our union is very much like that. She has a style, I think, that is very necessary in our type of work. We, on the progressive side, can be very opinionated and many times do harm to relationships or not learn to be collaborative because we don't listen. And I think in the case of Lita, what stands out is that she's very much the opposite of that. She very much likes to listen. She very much likes to even listen to opinions that that she doesn't agree with, but at the same time is willing to work with someone to try and find a common goal. So you can't just say you're going to listen to folks, but it requires that you take the time and invest the resources, especially for a union that's 6,000 members, to take the time to listen and actually have that concrete information that you can then project a vision.
So I assume you have no quarrel with the decision to make her the Labor Woman of the Year.
No, not at all. No, it's been a real pleasure having to work next to Lita. We're trying to fight for a livable wage for families. We're getting cut by the city. We have the most pro-rich mayor, in recent history. I personally don't think that you can change, society through the classroom. I think you can educate and you can try and bring awareness and empower children, empower their families, but ultimately it's going to be changed in the streets and the protest. Liberation's not going to come from a classroom that just replicates all the systems of oppression, but that you go outside with the community and build alternatives of power. And I think with Lita, we can see, with Lita, those around her, in the union as well, as a whole, there are people who believe that the union can be more than a tool of just defending, basic economic rights for a group of people, but they can also be at the forefront of defending the communities we serve and building a more just society for those communities, that it isn't just to our own, what we take home, our own salary, but the fact that we need to build a better world.
I'm a retired iron worker. I was president from 1999 to when I retired in January of 2015. I served an apprenticeship with Ironworkers Local 377. I've been a continuous member, and I became job steward after I turned out of the apprenticeship. And eventually, in the late 80s, I ran for executive board and was elected. I served as a delegate to the San Francisco Building Trades Council for close to 28 years, and also to the San Francisco Labor Council for over 25 years.
How did you happen to meet Mike Theriault?
Well, I first became aware of Mike. I was a journeyman in the field. Mike was an apprentice. I didn't know him, but at the time, Walt Vesney, the coordinator for our apprenticeship program for, I think it was close to 30 years. And he took me aside one day, because Walt and I were good friends, and he said, have you ever met Mike Theriault? And he had a very serious look on his face. And Walt was the guy you took seriously, especially when he wasn't smiling. And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, well, he's an apprentice, but he's somebody that we should keep an eye on because he's someone who's going to do a lot of good for the union. Following that, I was working on the Marriott Hotel. One of my buddies, we were up on the building, he says, "You see that guy down in the street?" And there was a guy down in the street on the transit shooting in the building, just very skilled position. And he was on an optical transit, you know, shooting in the building to make sure it was plumb, the structural steel. That guy's an apprentice, which was unusual for an apprentice to have a position like that when they were, you know, usually they were just punking things for somebody else. And I remembered Walt's reference to him, and then it all fit together. Because, you know, in order for someone to have a position like that as an apprentice, you have to be very, very precise and skilled and reliable. You had to have a really good work ethic.
Mike strikes me as being a very smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
Also very humane and with good people skills.
Said the district council was promoting an organizing program throughout the state of California, and each local was hiring organizers. So I was hired on as a full-time organizer, and then we were moving into a boom, and Mike was hired as an organizer to work alongside with me. We were in a big push to build the membership, and Mike came on in '99 as an organizer, and our membership doubled. Mike spoke fluent Spanish. We were concentrating on the rebar industry at the time, and there were a lot of Hispanic iron workers who were working non-union.
I knew that he spoke French fluently, but I didn't realize he spoke Spanish also.
That's right. He spoke French fluently, and that actually came in handy one time because we were trying to man a job, and we had a whole bunch of Canadian welders come in, and we were processing them over a 2-day period. You know, they didn't speak English, they spoke. and if it wasn't for Mike, we would have been dead in the water. He didn't just have the brains, he had the compassion and the heart. I mean, you know, I saw him interviewing workers. I saw him process their paperwork. I saw him keep very careful records and make sure, you know, basically take them by the hand and bring them into the union, then follow up on them in the apprenticeship program afterwards to make sure if they had any problems it would help resolve them. I mean, he had a tremendous amount of sensitivity to the needs of people who had been under the heel and who were trying to improve their lives.
The Labor Council has its skirmishes from time to time, but I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Mike Theriault.
No,
never.
He's very well respected, and I can tell you when we were, you know, we fought a lot of struggles, you know, and when we were in our organizing campaigns, but he had the respect of everyone, you know, not just the workers who were organized in, not just the union contractors, but the non-union contractors as well, because he could listen. And he could address, you know, issues that needed to be resolved in order to make everything work. And that's a special talent that he has. He has very, very strong views, and he's a very progressive guy, as everyone knows. And but he's a problem solver. You know, he lifts up the heavy end, as we say in the trade. He's not afraid to do the work it takes in order to make those things happen. He's well loved and respected by, we're in the Ironworkers Hall right now, and he's well known here, and we're honored to have him as a brother. I'm very happy that he's receiving this award.
Could you tell us something about your background, how you became an activist?
Well, my grandfather ran Local 38 for 35 years. He passed away in 1989.
That was Joe Mazzola.
That was Joe Mazzola. And at that time, Larry Mazzola Sr., my father, took over. I happened to be an apprentice plumber at the time. Had no idea that I would go into the union business. I was happy learning the trade. Was excited about becoming a foreman and working in the field. But the opportunity presented itself, and my dad offered me a position in the training center, and I took it, and I worked for our training center for 5 years. Had everything to do with the apprenticeship, writing the curriculum, hiring the teachers, and that sort of thing. After that, I became a business agent, and that's when I met Mike Theriault. I met Mike through the building trades, and he was a business agent for the ironworkers, and I was a young business agent for the plumbers union. And we used to go out on jobs together. And we used to team up in what was called the policing committee, and a bunch of us from different crafts would go out on jobs and try and organize and make sure that all the safety laws are being protected and what have you. Mike called me one day and he said, "Hey, we got to go out to this school out in the Richmond district. Let's get the policing committee together." He says it's a non-union job and they're probably not going to want us on there, but we're going to go. And I said, "Hey, let's go." So we went out there, and the general contractor came down and said, "You need to get off our property now." And Mike, stood his ground and said, "No, we're going to stay here. We have a right to be here to talk to the workers and make sure that the conditions are safe for them and see if they want to talk to us about joining the union." And he said, "Well, if you don't leave, we're calling the police." And Mike said, "Go ahead and call them." And he did. And Mike said, "We're waiting around. I don't care if we get arrested." And I said, "Well, I do." But it never happened. The cops did show up, but we just went our separate ways. But Mike definitely stood his ground, and he's always been a champion for labor in that way. He's never afraid to get arrested for the cause. Mike never backs down from a fight when he's sticking up for working people, especially the building trades people who he represents. He does a fabulous job at it. He always has, and he's not afraid to tell a politician when they're wrong or anybody else. And if it's something he believes in, he's passionate about it, and he's got all the facts lined up, more so than anybody I know. He's a hard-working guy. He's dedicated to what he does. He's dedicated and loyal to the building trades. The guy constantly is working. This is kind of funny. I'm a single guy, so my phone goes off at midnight, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's a girl, right? I get up, I go to the desk, I pick up my phone. It's Mike Theriault emailing me at midnight, telling me I got to be at a project labor agreement meeting next Wednesday. You couldn't find a more dedicated guy than Mike Theriault.
Also, he doesn't quite fit the image of a labor leader, because they sometimes stereotype us in negative ways. And Mike, he speaks 3 languages, and he's very well educated. He's kind of a proletarian intellectual.
Very much so. Mike's very intelligent, and I think his forte is negotiating project labor agreements. He does it better than anybody I've seen. He knows the language. He's done hundreds of them, and nothing gets by him. He's very good in that aspect of creating work for workers and protecting even non-union workers that end up on these jobs, to make sure that they're getting the prevailing wage and everything, all the protections they're supposed to get under the project labor agreement. So he's great. He's marched with labor council issues with Local 2 and other social justice issues, and he's not afraid, like I said earlier, to get thrown in the back of a squad car, and if it's for the right reasons, he'll do it, and he sticks up for people, even outside of the labor movement.
Can you think of anybody more deserving of Labor Man of the Year award than Mike Theriault?
I could think of nobody more deserving than Mike Theriault for the Labor Man of the Year award.
We are the working people. We build up and we tear down.